This conference will now be recorded.
instead of being able to take it out to a property and do land application.
If it passes the test.
Yeah, Logan, yeah, you would have to drive and pass the filter test. So it would have to probably dry on a lagoon basement, which that water would have to go back into the lagoon, and then it would have to go to Logan. So the benefits of a pre-treatment program, we're going to protect groundwater and surface water, protection of crops. We're going to extend the life of the infrastructure overall, the collection system, lift stations, and then town operator safety. The benefits, we start to eliminate things like oil and grease with using an oil and grease separator that can then be landfilled instead of building up in a town pipe. Our collection system integrity, I haven't studied your guys' system completely yet. We're getting into the TDR, but concrete pipe, metal pipe start to deteriorate. Tile pipe starts to crack. The treatment facility integrity, obviously. Our permit violations, I do know that there have been some TSS violations. So we start to get a big TSS load in the lagoon that passed through, and we have permit violations, which then cost the town money in violations. So this picture here is actually a wastewater plant in Glendive. And what happened is we had an illegal dump, and that foam that you can see is not typical in a wastewater plant or a lagoon. They went and dumped hydrocarbons into the sewer, and it killed the plant's entire biology. And we had to get a pump truck out, pump the oil off the top of the surface, and it took about 9 months for this plant to start operating again. Now this plant has air and a lot of process control, so we were able to get it up. 9 months is a long time, but we were able to get it up faster. If something like this happened in a lagoon, it could be years before that biology came back. So yes, I do highly recommend everyone have a pre-treatment ordinance, and it's to protect the town infrastructure. We do have a model pre-treatment ordinance, which we've given to the town, and I think you shared that, right? And that's based on EPA's model ordinance, just slimmed down significantly. But if EPA or DEQ ever determined that you had to have an approved pre-treatment program, and so the approved program, if you have a discharger with 25,000 gallons a day, they will mandate a pre-treatment program. If you have a discharger who gives 25% of your organic load, they will mandate. Or if you have, I think, 2 million gallons a day, which isn't going to, or 2 million gallons a year, which probably is not too big an issue yet, but could be. So what are we trying to eliminate with pre-treatment? Fire and explosion hazards, that structural damage, so all of the infrastructure. We want to keep viscous pollutants out, so you get a big slug coming into the lagoon, and then it really wreaks havoc with your biology in your lagoon. Super high concentrations or flows coming in all at once. Anything with high heat, any kind of toxic, gas, liquid, and then a really big risk to those communities, destructive health waste. And if we don't, one, limit how that's introduced into the system, metal machine shop. It could be so many things. The EPA has like probably 50 pages of an industrial user. We didn't define that in this one. We kept it very simple. These approved plans are really, really long and cumbersome for it. So oil and grease restaurants, oil and or grease traps, oil grease separators, and ensuring that the restaurant bakeries are maintaining those on a regular basis. And so if the town goes out and sees that a restaurant line is super greasy like this, the ordinance gives them the opportunity to go work with that restaurant owner and get that grease trap back up and running and protect that infrastructure. And that's what this says for meat packing plants. We can use a concrete tank with some aeration in it to break up that VOC. RV dump stations and RV parks, they get high density, a big plug of waste with some toxic chemical in them, those little blue packs we all put in our RVs. Those are awful for the environment. It kills your biology.
Hand me my backpack, please. Give me my backpack.
With those little blue tabs in the toilet, you're killing the biology to make sure that you don't get odors in your RV while you're camping. So we don't want to get a big slug of dead biology into the lagoon all at once because that'll kill all of your biology. So we want to trickle that waste into the system and treat it a little bit at a time. So one of the things that we do is a typical septic tank, where that's collected probably on the weekends, maybe all week, and then it's trickled into the system. If it's a high use RV park, we can put some of the aerators in and break it down and then heat it a little bit faster. Metals and shards. In Helena we have the Boeing plant, and the machine stuff, and then they sweep it down the drain, and it goes into the sewer, and then we get metal in our sludge, and they can't landify it. So we can do, depending on whether it's metals in the liquid stream or those metal shards, there's different treatments that you can get the metal to settle out, and then put the liquid part into the collection system and treat it out of the stream. And then the shards are the soluble metals off to the landfill. Distilleries and breweries. So I lump these together, but I will say brewery waste has been found to be a little bit more beneficial because some of the carbon that we get from the breweries do help enhance the treatment as long as we get it in a small I know that's a lot to take in. When you say truck, when you say truck in or dump, trucks in home waste, yes. So those big pump trucks that you see, they go around and empty septic tanks, the blue room, and anything else that you can stick a hose down and fill up.
Are they just allowed to come jump at our station?
They are. Oh, okay. No. So that's all.
Two of them this year, sneaking back there.
Oh, wow.
Those big tank trucks, exactly.
Yeah. So that's good, that you don't allow them. If you did want to ever do them, there's some trucks are called waste stations where you make the haulers test their waste before they dump. And then you put it in, again, a concrete tank and leave it in. And then you charge them based on. The lagoon is really hard to treat that in the lagoon. You don't have the you don't have the air. You're not able to move pumps and mixers around like you are in a
Last 3 months, that's double what they were last year. We will be in violation.
Yeah, and they put on new chamber crews right now. So they charge permit for all when they changing. I think you guys actually have one in for renewal, right? And so they're holding all of the permits right now until the state decides how it's going to go. So we don't know yet. We have an idea it's going to be a watershed probably thing, but we don't know that for sure yet. So it's going to be your whole watershed is what the limits are going to be based on potentially. That's not into law yet, but it will be whoever's upstream can affect your permit limit, and you can affect the downstream permit limit. So that's not set yet, but that is what is a watershed.
Or are you saying it would get tougher further down? What does the application what's this look like?
It depends on what your business is. If it's a restaurant, oil grease trap. If it's a distillery, you're probably going to want to hire an engineer and we'll test your waste stream and see what that waste stream looks like. If it's a brewery, again, you would want to test the waste stream and see what that looks like. It's some kind of Christian man. I guess current business owners, probably if you have an issue with your line.
I can think of a few and other times. Well, speak up. What are you talking about?
For you, you probably have to put a racetrack. And that depends on what you're saying. It can be anywhere from like $500 to $100,000. So basically, what you're saying, the difference in the length of it, depending on the size you're saying, how much. The grease traps rate based on what you're saying. So the ones I have in my restaurant, and then cost a monthly. So it's not 30,000. For you, no. But if somebody had to put in like a concrete wall, like a oil water separator on their property, and put in some like infrastructure like that, then yeah. Well, that's a big one. That
You're making green. But they're designed for residential. Now, as a homeowner, you should not be dumping your grease down your drain, or you're going to have issues with that.
So most people don't take care of their own septic system.
Yes. Yep. I believe you are responsible for your service line to use me, or at least the property line. So if you plug it up between them, there is your responsibility.
If you hook it up.
Yes.
What kind of processes are you seeing for responsibility?
A lot of RV waste, and it sits in there, so, the soap industry is trying to go less phosphorus, no phosphorus. You get more pollution if you're taking a shower, right? When you're in an RV and you dump your full tank down the drain, you get that slug. And a lagoon is not designed to treat nitrogen as phosphorus.
This time of year, whereas earlier in the year we're low on those levels, right? This year.
This time of year is our peak hot peak time. This is when everything gets higher. We are starting to drop off that now. We're starting to see it.
But like this spring before everybody came back for their winter houses and stuff, we had a problem with levels then, right?
We did have a problem mainly because of the water, the groundwater. We were getting so much groundwater from the river, and that was our problem this spring. It was diluting. It was diluting our. So you take a sample at the beginning, and then a sample at the end, was diluting it so much we weren't getting out the most removal limit that we have.
The other thing is in the summertime, you get better natural treatment because your wastewater temperatures are warmer. You have the sun, which can be good and bad, right? You get some treatment, but you also get algae. So summertime, typically we see better treatment in lagoons, and probably in January we see pretty bad numbers.
If we went full moon.
I could not give you that number right now.
I don't think the air habits.
Yeah, I mean, probably communities size right now between 10 and 20 million. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing 8% inflation right now in materials.
Then that also increases your cost
Your operation.
for the operation, correct?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and your certifications of your wastewater operators go up, your chemical costs go up, your power costs, I mean, and all of your operation costs at a plant go up over a week. And I mean, there's options, and we're working on a PER, and we'll have some recommendations. Maybe it's land application, but even if it's land application, you can't have, then you almost can't have pass through at all because you're going to kill your crop or contaminate your soils under the crop. So, I mean, no matter what you're doing with the effluent on the backside of the plant, you need to make sure you're not putting toxins in because a wastewater treatment plant is not going to treat
are we going with this maybe? I'm trying to figure out where we're going, what's this, you know,
So our permit actually requires that we have a retreatment.
Do you have an industrial?
everything's worked good, and all of a sudden, everybody's going to knee-jerk reaction and doing, where are we headed with this before we get involved in it? Because so far, there's been finger pointing, but it hasn't to do with anybody in Ennis except businesses. I mean, basically, finger pointing is going towards the businesses. So our business is supposed to take it and just smile, or what are you gonna do? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is where the whole plan is going. I mean, some of us, you have a business, he has a business, she has a business. Your business doesn't affect it as much. You guys, but maybe your dad might, stuff like that. We all have, you know, ours does. But where are we headed with this? Are you gonna try and nail people that we just talked about to the wall with the whole thing, or what's going on? That's what I was trying to figure out.
We're trying to set a standard that everybody has to get their rates down to basically residential parts. You have to have a grease trap, and that's been in there for the better part of a decade already. Like, you should have a grease trap already. And this is setting standards for everybody else so that we can get more out of the business. Because if not, if we don't try to stretch the system, we will all pay for it. You just heard 20 million. That doesn't mean that we just get a pump along. That means we jack the rates and figure out how to put in a bigger facility and find grants and yeah, lots of little towns are. But we gotta get the most out of it. Lots of little towns blew up and it's gonna be competitive like Grand Prairie. And where we discharge into the river, I imagine they're gonna be extra.
I agree.
You've seen all the political flyers everywhere else, and all the
And it's only
initiatives,
good.
want that river clean, clean as clean to be, and if we can't meet our requirements, then I mean, it's gonna be a fine, it's still gonna come back as a whole, like, we have to add the person side to it.
So is the system, because we've lived here 15 years, been running a business for 15 years, is this system able to handle the extra 200 houses that are supposed to come in? That's what I am just like.
Our infrastructure is part of this influx.
And part of what we're doing, I can send here, it's looking at an engineering report. And so what we're going to be looking at is the pool and what the pipes look like and what the treatment system looks like. And can we put any enhancements into the treatment system? Can we put enhancements into the collection system? We need to replace water. We need to do some light areas, some of the sections wide. And then we'll bring those recommendations and have another public meeting and go through all those recommendations.
So that sounds like you guys are solely on the stuff, we're also evaluating the town system, where we can make it better. That's everybody, all the residential, everything, all, because, yeah, I mean,
Well, has this area, used to be an airport, started something because of investments by certain people, by private parties, to build houses and do this and do that. Are we trying to bring more people in, or, I mean, I'm not trying to chase anybody around or out, I just want to know where the goals are at.
This was recommended, honestly, when they did the lagoon update, so that was over 14 years ago. That's when this retreatment ordinance was recommended, when the permit was issued. Actually, our permit says that we have to have it, and that hasn't happened, but when the lagoon went in, it really should have been perfect. Or when the update happened, that would have been the perfect time. And now we're out of our PDR cycle, so that's when we went to that. Water one thing that water first preliminary engineering report. So it's a book like this that they're producing. Yeah, and it's pretty exciting reading. I mean, I read part of the last one a lot, and what I didn't know I needed an engineering degree for this fabulous position, but
You don't, that's why
interesting. I honestly didn't think you're arguing.
Yeah, right.
I think the river's super cool. That's all I'll say. But obviously.
I know, there's not for all the businesses. I'm in the same boat, like, do I have to,
Yeah.
have
It
a,
is.
I'm not gonna
It
change it.
definitely is.
So I gotta call an engineer.
If there's a right way to.
I have no problem being transparency. I think
Is there-
that's very important.
Grants for businesses that are not, I mean, $1,000 for grants. I'll put grease trap for $1,000. When I heard 30,000, my butt was here. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, that was my fault, that was totally my fault. I wanted to make sure that they got everybody.
You got it.
Thank you.
You got it.
I wanted to make sure.
Shut up. $2,000 is something the company can write off, but 30,000 for that little bar. I just paid 20,000 for insurance for my bar for the year. Like,
The other thing it does is any industry coming into town, if you were to get a meat processing plant that wanted to come in and process meat and drive your VOCs through the roof, the lagoon is not gonna handle that. So if, as you're going through a business coming into town, you can say we have our pre-treatment ordinance, and you need to put that infrastructure in while you're building your facility. I think I copied and pasted incorrectly. Yeah.
I didn't know it was collected.
Nope,
Days or what?
These are the things applied, and I believe that. Yeah.
As far as breweries and distilleries, one thing that's quite often overlooked, which is more caustic to the system, is the cleaners. The cleaners. The cleaners are what's going to do the damage. You know, you guys clean your tanks every time, or is that this year? Not every time, but every time we change.
Every time we change.
So, do you know offhand what the cleaner you use? No, I don't, but that we can find that out, and it would be easy. Just so that we can do some research on it. Kind of cleaner. Yeah, that would be easy. We can change the process in that way, so that we don't flush as much caustic stuff down the drain.
So how's it going to be determined what businesses are in violation or not in violation, subject to pre-treatment or not subject to? So for example, we have a food shop over here. It looks like maybe a big scary monster, but I don't have a floor drain. So we're not discharging any oils except for what might be washed on my hands and shops. We're flushed out the toilet. Right.
The ones that have a floor drain.
If you're not putting anything down the sewer.
Right, so that would be my question is, you know, we have pre-treatment on the car wash. Talk about that. Right. But like on the food shop side, that's a totally separate sewer connection. You know, it is, well, the restroom, what shops there are more than business.
But if there was a leaf shop, most leaf shops have floor drains. Like Phillipsburg, I'm working with them right now on the same thing. They have a leaf shop that has tons of oil and grease, and they use sheen out of it. And that's immediately a discharge violation.
That comes to everybody.
It does. Yeah.
So if we each do just a little bit, so that we get another 10 years out of it, we're all set.
lawyers don't want to get to it, don't want to send it to court.
That's not the lawyer.
That's
Oh, I thought that was.
No, the lawyer.
Main Street Mall.
Oh, I feel bad now. You have a mic out so that you could online. Aaron, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for Amy while she's here?
Do you think? I'll try to take it easy
figured
on
you
her, though.
did. Here, I'm gonna give her my mic.
Yeah, it's easier being here better.
So she can hear you better. I think you're on. Is it on?
I think so.
All right, perfect. So just to be clear, I own the campground in town.
Okay.
So I'm one of the most affected by this potential bill. And so I just wanted to make sure, like a couple things with you being, the engineering expert, is I think that we need to understand, like, I think that the village really needs to understand the effect. I mean, you're saying a holding tank to collect all the sewer waste of my entire campground somewhere on the campground. Where does that go? What is the expense? I mean, that sounds to me like digging up every single sewer connection to connect it to a single source and collecting all the sewer waste for a week could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, there's not that much generated in a year at that place.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying that we would change your discharge location. What we would do is probably at one of the main lines coming out of town or out of your campground, we could look at that. There would be a collection tank, maybe a little bit of aeration. And then it could still bleed into the city system for treatment. It's just when we get the big slug of waste on a Sunday or when everybody shows up and drains their tanks, those big flows of highly concentrated waste is what causes issues at the lagoon. And so
Sure.
what most RV parks have done is they put in a concrete collection tank somewhere on a main line. We maybe add air depending on what your concentrations are, and then it's bled into the city sewer system.
So my main issue with this is that, number one, this is based on assumption, right? So you're saying that what I do is put big slugs and that people come through and dump all this stuff. Over 3/4 of our campground is monthly, and they dump almost daily small amounts, and they all rinse their tanks thoroughly and are hooked up to water simultaneously when draining because they don't want their campers to smell like shit. So, I mean, I think that, like, the assumption that we're just constantly, like, we're not an RV dump station. We don't have a dump. We have a line of people dumping stuff. Our flow has never been metered. So, like, all of this is based on what RV parks do, but not what I or my business actually does. We have 2 bathhouses. The vast majority of people, quite frankly, use the bathhouses because they don't want to use their campers. So, the flow that we're regulating may not even be of a point where, it would justify this sort of thing. And I still haven't gotten the question answered as to, like, what sort of expense would be expected with something like this. Because I think that that everybody at the meeting needs to understand, okay, we're putting a business at jeopardy. I mean, I heard other people say, like, hey, this is all coming down to the business. This is a business that like putting in a grease trap is significantly different than putting in a holding tank inside a sewer main, that we just don't understand the cost.
Yeah, and I don't think I mean, there's sewer flow meters that you could put on your main to look at what your flows are on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And then you can do some testing of your effluent, different grab samples at different times to see what is in the waste that you're discharging. And then you come up with a plan. If it is the way you say it is out at your facility, maybe it's a very small tank of some sort for that pre-treatment to just get it down to that residential strength.
But that all comes back to me, right?
And
So it's
again,
like,
it's depending on the flow. Yeah, you are the business owner. Yes, this is for the business owners because
so you
you're
measure,
commercial
yeah,
or industrial.
right. So the burden of proof is to prove that I'm not doing something, not the burden of proof is to prove that I am doing something.
Well, I mean, the town could put a flow meter on your service line and do testing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just want to understand what's involved. It sounds very involved. Like a grease trap sounds not that involved to me. If you said, hey, you got to put a grease trap into my kitchen sink, okay, no big deal. digging up an entire section of the campground to put in a huge holding tank for 23 spots of waste for a week seems like that would be very expensive. And we just keep going around the circle. Well, you have to figure it out. I'm like, I don't, where do I even begin? And you're the expert and you don't seem to have any answer on that either, which is concerning.
Well, I think that there's more work that needs to be done. You need to figure out what your total flows are on a weekly basis and what your loads are, and that's done by flow monitoring and testing. And then we can size the tank, and then I can give you a range of a cost estimate, because right now costs are up one day and down the next.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I think it would be, I think that for all the businesses involved and for the, for the trustees or, to make a decision on whether or not to pass it, I think they need to know the actual effect that it'll have on businesses to be able to make a responsible decision. Just to say like, well, this is what we got to do. Tough shit. We'll figure it out later. Doesn't seem like a very responsible way to do business in my mind. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in your permit, and I guess I didn't realize that, if it's in your permit, if you don't do an ordinance, the EPA will come in. And they have been coming into small Montana towns. And some people are having to do approved programs. And if you have to do that, then it's significantly more work in identifying industrial users, going in and doing monthly, bi-monthly, depending on the commercial or industry you're in, inspections, and the town would be doing those, and then your operation and maintenance costs are going to go up.
Right, and if the EPA were to come in, they would do exactly, we identified businesses that are, when we're talking household waste, that's what we're trying to make all of our waste products to be, but we're steering towards these businesses that you had laid out earlier as potential culprits.
And then
initially.
And then you're going to have to go classify significant industrial users, commercial users, and everybody's going to have a different limit that they're going to have to meet. And your ordinance is going to be like this instead of the smaller local ordinance that you have more control over.
So is the town going to assess each business on what they think they need? Like, I'm kind of with the gentleman on the TV, I'm trying to understand, like, I heard a lot of, you need to do this, so is the burden on us as business owners to say, I need to go find an engineer and tell them that I need to add pre-treatment to my business and let that engineer figure out and design what we're supposed to have at our location? Or is this something that the town is going to have your firm assess businesses and say, well, for this restaurant, they just need a grease trap, and for the brewery, they need a holding tank, and for the car wash, they need, this seems.
Are they gonna tell us what we test for and what the limits are and what we're shooting for and where we are and that kind of thing too? I mean, when are we at the limit that, okay, I've sufficiently pre-treated my effluent versus, well, that's not good enough, let's keep going. Well, where is our target? Who's gonna establish the target?
Yeah, and so, I mean, if you have to do an approved program, they are going to come in and we're going to back calculate based off of the town's permit, go through the pages, and everybody's going to get a limit. And you're going to have to test your wastewater. That is not, I believe, not the intention of the town.
Well, I was talking about the plan you're discussing now. Mm-hmm. How are we going to have those kinds of limits and targets, and who establishes that? Or just best effort is good enough, and you did this, we're good, we're not going to test it. Or what's the plan? How is this going to be approached?
I believe the intention is right now best effort.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
with you over, and we know that things could, we don't know what that price range could be. And every little business is different, so we'll look at
Right.
your business, see what it needs, you know, do our tests, see where we're at, make a plan. That might be an easy 1-year plan for somebody else, it might be a 2-year plan for the next guy. Like, as long as there is a plan, that we're all working towards the same angle of making sure that that lasts, so that everybody that's living within the town doesn't have to accrue a whole bunch of costs for all of us.
We have a distiller.
They
So,
will.
okay, we're
They
gonna,
will,
we're
because the
gonna
cost
shoot for
of doing
BODs
this-
and we're not worried about testing for meth, right? I mean, that's.
Probably the same, we'll just have it sent
At
out,
the end of
tested
the
for all the wastewater parameters.
And I would say if you're looking at a grease trap, you'd probably call a plumber, and the plumber can help size it and give you a cost.
Sure.
If you're looking at something a little bit more complex, you might need an engineer, but a manufacturer might be able to help you as well. And I would be happy to give you some reputable manufacturers in the state that you could talk to that you don't need to hire an engineer.
It's just not common language for most.
It is not.
This was a dictionary.
It is
There's
not.
a lot of extra reading and not still.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know what that word means now, yay for me.
Yeah.
And then the more you read, you're like, oh. And then the farther we go in it, the more he has to relearn and permit it.
You know, I've read over many pre-treatment ordinances in the last few, and the one thing I don't think we need to do and get to do is, like, this is an ordinance for one business. This ain't where I want to go. This ain't where this is one business. This is, that's how
So-
it's going. I don't feel
Yeah.
like that's where we need to go right now, you know? That's my
And in like the city of Helena, Bozeman, Kalispell, Missoula, Butte, they have to issue permits to businesses.
Yeah.
Because they have that EPA approved. It's, yeah, it's a lot. So a local ordinance is certainly the way you want it to go. Where we're making our best effort.
This puts them needing the same license and whatnot that I have to do the testing. They have to also employ this person. Yeah. The report and all that. That's not something.
Or that you want to have to
Yeah,
dig
we
through.
don't want to go that way.
Yes.
We're not,
I have somebody covering the bar, I need to go.
Human line.
Oh, he's a sweetheart to even cover me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you all.
And the
Thanks
town
for
has my number, and I'd be happy to discuss
Thank
anything
you.
with anyone.
Honestly, but, and I'll say this, my concern is I spent an hour today cleaning a basket that I have to put behind this place because of what goes through their sewer. If I don't put it in there, it's clogged up in our jetters and cutters. That's where I'm arm deep grabbing them out of there. In this area. So,
Not fun.
those are my concerns.
I hear you. I feel you. It's no fun. I've been there, I've been down on the lift station. On a lot. It's no fun.
Good times.
Right.
So moving forward, like we've discussed having a couple of council members going around door to door to businesses or to physically face to face talking with these people, not just, doing a phone call or
Yep.
what have you. And it'd be nice to kind of just have something very simply put that we're just trying try to help you make your waste as close to household waste as possible. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So some simple way of document, maybe you can get from this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a page flyer there.
Understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I think I have a stack of business cards. I'm happy to leave them so people can contact me. If there's someone who has lots of questions, I'm happy to come down, visit with them. Yeah.
Eric, will you get that information for me so I can reach out to you tomorrow?
Yes, sir. Oh,
Thank
hey, I won't be here tomorrow. You asked for Kyle.
Well, we can do it. We can do it in a week or something. I'm just gonna be. I had to run out today, so I'm sorry that I wasn't there in person. I had to come out to Phillipsburg, so I'm halfway there. I'm gonna get going, but because once I pull out, I'm gonna lose signal, I'm sure. So, thanks, guys. And I didn't mean to be a jerk. I'm trying to make sure that I understand what's going on and that everybody understands. And I think that we can certainly make moves towards it. I think for us, it's an easy, the easy first steps is just implementing some policies, refraining from some certain chemicals, making sure that what waste is flushed. We're not a dump station. I think we can get to household waste pretty easily. I don't think that's a big stretch for what we do. So and I think, the ambiguity of the document can come as a blessing or a curse in a lot of ways. So, it kind of depends on who's in charge. So, I'm going to trust the village to make the right decision, the town to make the right decision. And, I just want to make sure that we understand what burden we're putting on businesses before the final vote is cast. That's all.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, guys.
That's pretty much all I got. And we can have copies of our draft one. We can't cover it, but it's not super.
Yeah, that's not hard. That's not hard.
Set to say.
No, just trying to get questions answered. Sure. And we understand it. What are you looking for? That's all I need. So, and I understand the police work. So, and that should be an easy change. We got two. We're facing two different organizations. One telling me not to put water, one telling me.
Yes.
So at that point, we have to come together and make the best.
Yeah,
We'll work all that's the direction.
No, it's not unusual.
What's going on in
There's some
you know what I mean?
discussion. Some of the businesses, Eric probably sees in this
We'll work with
oil and grease coming out of them.
Yeah, I just have.
He knows what are really causing big issues.
I can't get away.
What the ordinance does is gives you the teeth as the town and Eric to this needs to be done. Now, I find out our truly truly sensitive.
I'll try and come down. Yeah, I'll come down.
It's there to be killed by bacteria. So, or if they're coming in full, I mean, I have a camper myself because we don't dump every day. We dump our tanks.
We met the other day.
We're at it.
Oh, yeah. It is. Oh, you're out of here.
They're gonna automatically be able to get permitted to be able to do what they wanna do without doing that. Maybe we're gonna have it.
Until they know their.
I mean, it seems like,
In my mind.
don't tell anybody.
Yeah, we'll buy you one. All right, see you later. Thank you,
Very
guys.
small town. Here we are.
Yeah. And the smaller the town, the bigger the RV waste issue is. Because you don't have as much pollution and mixing as the bigger towns.
I should probably know this, but I don't. Do we have a dump station?
You should see some of this video.
The town pumps. A lot of town pumps do.
I will show you literature upon literature upon.
But so my dad owns the meat shop where they process.
The BOD load.
He, I think he
This
said
is where I
because
heard about that. So
of
the
a thing
BOD
that they
load.
come suck everything out of, so
Yeah.
theoretically he's already got it.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, except for the bleach and stuff that they can pour down the floors and that.
And bleach has a really short life.
I'm thinking like.
Usually by the time bleach leaves the floor drain and gets to a lagoon,
So,
it's
since-
with a half-life of a half-life.
Okay.
It's
So
so
it's not actually that.
No, and in sewer, actually, the bleach starts to clean it as it
That's what I was
goes.
wondering. Right.
Yeah,
So it's a thing.
it kind of, as long as you don't get too
And
much.
we were trying to make it
Yeah.
so that it could be
Okay.
at our discretion.
Mhm.
We were seeing that.
Yeah, and if there's something else you want for handouts, I can certainly put them for information.
I know you got tanks. I know you
I
said
just wish it was
10
tell me
days, right?
effective. Oh, that's what I was wondering too. Why is that
Keep it
center?
relaxed.
I should have.
Well, I-
Yeah, I've been wondering.
Why?
Because I know it's
Due
surface.
to the mass flow, when you get a
Oh.
big event and you get
Yeah.
all that permit getting to
That's why there
Oh.
aren't numbers in.
Luckily, they don't really have any
If you put them
centers
in there,
that are large
that is
enough
good.
to really.
What about the damn library?
That's the general summary.
People
And
there.
that was,
Like,
those are like the
they
kids
are
that spend
permanent,
this time
it's
in
expired.
that was the.
And it's just hanging out while they're waiting for their magic numbers. So we wanted to get pre-treated before they went to bring it up for months, so maybe they get to the.
We need to write this, like how.
And where we're on the river.
Oh, so I was there. I was saying,
Yeah, they just.
This isn't as big, like,
so they've been proposing.
You know how it was being built.
Connected Churchill.
realistically. But if he had looked at another town who wanted to buy every,
Both
another
models.
town, they probably would have.
Right.
So you could have expected to see this coming. It's not
And
to be.
they could expand Amsterdam.
No, it's not harm being biased to any
The
business.
big
It's just-
seven, I mean, it's way worse.
All the way down there.
Like,
down
because
there.
they have EPA approved.
I mean, in the
And
summertime,
it's,
I've got
What's the big seven?
the big, so buildings, the big seven.
there's times of the year.
And that's why the EPA, they do yearly inspections on those
I'm
plants.
surprised.
And then they've been starting to stop in some of our small towns and
Sure.
Mine,
I think-
I
I think
can
a
tell
lot
you,
of
like, I
this
live right next door.
starts
and I can
with,
smell
so
it.
most people don't
One of the
know
mammals
what
in my
we
yard.
do with our gray
Yeah,
water.
that's a little bit more than.
That it actually gets, so they're back into the river, their first phase of this expansion. Penalized for that, so I think a big part of this, well, it all comes down to education. There's three phases. Phase one, people make all the accusations, other one, get all pissy about the.
And here's something,
Doesn't do any good to
when
anyone.
that plant, when it's done,
So,
if you think.
right, Eric gonna give a field trip for one individual.
They're gonna.
There's
who I think-
Josh.
Well, I don't know how the hell they.
I don't know too.
It's a town that has to sit around going.
Yeah, he works in wastewater treatment. This goes, storm wastewater.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even register. I would love for him, like, so their whole group of businesses to be there when he's there, like I said.
And well, I screwed up, I didn't
I didn't even know he had to do it.
We're-
Got here in the
we're
right time.
close to ours.
That's okay, I
We're close.
called on Monday, and I
After
was
this is
gonna come
done,
in and
then
grab flyers,
one
I
other
was
thing
told
gets
that
in.
somebody already come in and grab them all, these given them out, and I make calls today, nobody will come. So I got a lot of instructions, that's why Wally and Lori were here, that's why Kitty's here, Distillery, Brewery.
And then it does all come down to nobody's looking at you, they got 40,000 emails.
But like I was wondering about the Aaron Laura, we're gonna go into like a first reading on
You
it.
physically have to go to the kind of, you end up part of the.
Yeah.
Yes, Amy, I'd like to, like, you had, I wasn't gonna take a shot, I should, we're on, like,
businesses that